Hi, my name's Ian and welcome to another edition of Fliplet Insights. Today we're going to be covering off another question from a customer, which was, how do I know how effective my app is being? And there's really two very easy ways to confirm how effective your app is. And that is to track downloads and obviously to track what people do inside your app. And there are two key systems that we recommend people use. One is the app stores, such as Google Play or iTunes Connect, and they record downloads. But then there's also Google Analytics, which is what Fliplet uses as an example. And the reason why we use Google Analytics, you might be thinking, isn't that a web tracking tool? Well, a couple of years ago, Google extended Google Analytics to include the ability to track apps. And therefore, we're allowed to use it or enabled to use it to give much deeper insight in a very familiar tool. So anyway, without further ado, let's get cracking. How good is your app? Now, as I mentioned, one of the easiest ways to tell is tracking downloads. Now, the key question is, how do you track downloads? So as I've already mentioned, app stores are tracking downloads. So if you use the Apple App Store to distribute your app, then you need to log into a system called iTunes Connect. And if you use Google, you need to log into the Google Play Store. And in there, you'll find access to download information. You'll also find information about which country's downloading it and which device they're using generally. But of course, that information really isn't that useful because, yes, you may see you're getting downloads, but you don't really know if you're getting downloads because of maybe some marketing that you're doing, or if you're getting downloads because other people are promoting your app. It doesn't really give you enough information to tell if people are actually effectively using your app. So in that case, you need to start paying to key statistics that are occurring inside your application, and that's where Google Analytics really comes into play. So the key statistics that Google Analytics covers are things like users. Users are the number of people who open and use your application. Now, that's a unique person. So let me explain how that works. When I first download and install an app and I open it, Google Analytics records a tracking ID, which it knows is me, and it doesn't record another tracking ID. So if I open the app a second time, I'm not marked as a second user, I'm still the same user. And so users is the unique users of your application, and they are not counted multiple times. Although it is worth noting that if I use the app on an iPhone and then I use the app on an iPad, I will be counted as two separate users because Google Analytics does not know that I am the same user or a different user on each of those devices. I hope you're still with me. The second thing to track, which is kind of related to users, is sessions. Sessions records how many times somebody has been active in your app. So let me give you an example of a session. If I open an app the first time, I would be a user, and that would be my first session. If I then close the app and the next day I load the app again, I would be the same user, but that would be my second session. And so basically, sessions expire after a period of inactivity, and then when activity starts again on that app, it's considered a second session. So sessions are also a great way to understand how engaging people are finding your app because it tells you how frequently they're coming back. Okay. The next statistic, and I think this one is probably the easiest one for most people to get their head around, is screens. And Google Analytics counts screen views. And so using screen views and sessions, you can determine how engaged people are each time they're using your app. Because if they're using lots of screens, you would assume that they're highly engaged, as in they're spending a lot of time going through different screens in your app. And if they're using a lot of sessions, you can tell that they keep coming back. And those two statistics really give you an idea about how people are finding your app and what they're using it for. The other really interesting thing about screens is you can drill into screens and you can actually find out which screens are being used. So this can tell you which parts of your app are getting the highest level of usage and which parts of the app are not. That can be very useful. So let's say that you've got 3 sections to your app and 2 sections are quite popular and one hardly gets any traffic. You can always, using the data from Google Analytics, kind of take a step back, maybe look at your app with fresh eyes and determine why would people not be going to that 3rd section? Is there something wrong? And asking yourself those types of questions is obviously what all this analysis and reporting data is really helpful for. So as I mentioned at the beginning, we use Google Analytics, iTunes Connect, and also the Google Play Store. And then there's one other tool that I just want to mention that we use internally at Fliplet to track our apps, the apps that we produce, such as Fliplet Viewer. And that's an app called App Annie. Well, actually, it's not an app, ironically. It's a web tool like Google Analytics. And what you do is you go to App Annie, I think it's appannie.com, you sign up, and then you connect the various App Store accounts that you have to it, and it tracks the downloads for you. And it is a much better interface than using iTunes Connect or using Google Play, and it gives you a much richer data set. It can also automatically email you download reports on a daily basis, and so it means that you don't have to go and log into the tool, you get them in your inbox. So I hope that session's been useful. That covers off a quick overview about how effective your app is being used. If you'd like to find out more information about Fliplet, you can visit fliplet.com. If you'd like to follow us on social media, we're on Twitter at Fliplet App, or you can just find our Facebook page by searching for Fliplet on Facebook. We hope you enjoyed the video, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks very much. I'm Ian from Fliplet. I hope you have a great day.